Guys, welcome back to the channel. RacerX here, and I am at Buick GMC in McKinney, Texas, because they have a vehicle here that I have been dying to show you guys. It is an absolute monster. The features on this thing are absolutely out of this world, almost literally. I can't wait to show you guys all of the unique features of this vehicle. It is brand new. Almost nobody has them, but today we're going to do a review. It is the brand new Hummer EV. And I'm going to show you all of the little features of this thing. I cannot wait. Major power in this thing, so it should be a lot of fun. Guys, if you are brand new to my channel, do me a huge favor. Hit subscribe. You can find that down there in the corner. You can follow me on Instagram. And here we go.
T-minus 15 seconds.
And there it is. Take a look at that monster in the flesh. This has been the talk of the automotive world for quite some time. They say it is very impressive. Well, I've taken a hard look all around this thing. They took an hour just to show me all the features of this particular vehicle. 1,000 horsepower, but listen to this. Listen to the torque. 11,500 pound-feet of torque. 9,000 pounds in the brand new Hummer EV. Those are just staggering numbers to think about. This thing is big, it is wide, and just the features on this thing are insane. Let's go ahead and jump into some of the features on the brand new Hummer, and then we'll take it for a drive. So yes, this is the brand new Hummer EV, and the first thing I'm going to point out is just look at it from this angle. It is super wide. This thing is actually a foot wider than a GMC Yukon, which is not a small vehicle. And it's kind of like a TRX. You see the three lights up here on the top. Anytime you have a vehicle that's wide like that, they have to have those three lights on the top. But as you start to look at the back side of this thing, they basically are a Hummer, but you also have kind of like a truck bed back here. It's almost a full-size truck bed they have back here. Here are the three lights in the back to tell you that it is wider. You do get a standard towing hitch. You got your tow hooks back here as well. Now, one of the really unique features of the Hummer, as you can see, there's no mistaking that it is a Hummer EV now, but they put these H's all over the entire vehicle. Like they're in the tail lights. They're actually all over the place. So I'll point a lot of that stuff out. And the only really optional features of this particular one, you get the step bars down here, and you also get this bed cover right here. Everything else on this thing is standard. So as I run through all of these features, just keep that in mind. The sticker price on one of these is somewhere around 108 base, but I think even fully decked, they're only like 115 in terms of how much you can actually add to them because they come so decked out from the factory. But this thing is truly a monster. So some other things to point out on the outside of the Hummer, because like I said, there is a lot, is this, first of all. That is actually not the headlight. Believe it or not, when this thing is charging, you'll actually see light in here as it's charging, which is kind of neat. You can see they did work the Hummer name into the front of this. This is all kind of decorative, but there are a lot of lights that kind of come on right here. The headlights are actually these jokers down here, and they are quite bright. You do see the tow hooks up here. Now, you'll see lots of cameras all over this vehicle, and I'll show you that when we look at the inside. But one of the really neat things about this vehicle is that you can raise and lower it as much as 10 inches. You got like this entry ride height that you can actually play with. And for off-roading and stuff, you can actually raise this thing up basically 10 inches from the lowest setting. So that is pretty darn cool. You see lots of little cameras here. They really did work a lot of kind of contrast in the color of this bad boy too. And you can see on the wheels here, pretty heavy duty here. You're basically looking at a 35-inch tire. This is a Goodyear Wrangler. This is an 8-bolt pattern as opposed to a standard 5. You can see they even work the Hummer logo into the tire itself. But a lot of raising and lowering with the air ride suspension in this. Now, another really cool feature of the brand new Hummer EV is actually the frunk space. You would think there would be an engine in there with most Hummers, but obviously on this one it's not. It is fully electric, but the frunk does open in this, and it is pretty darn cool. You can see it all opens automatically with the key fob. Now in here, you do have, you could use this space kind of for whatever. This is actually designed for the T-tops, so to speak, or the roof of the vehicle itself. That's what you put in these bags right here, and they're made to fit in there there quite nicely. Let me actually step around here and show you that when you get into the inside of this thing, and I'll cover the inside in detail, but check this out. This is kind of like those traditional T-tops you would see like in the Trans Ams and stuff, except you get 4 of them. So you get them both front and back, and the entire roof panel will come off of this. Believe it or not, even the bar that runs through the center of this thing will come off to basically give it a full convertible feel. So take a book right out of Jeep's page on that. Pretty darn neat. And then of course, when you're done, all you have to do is step around here, and there's a little button here that you can push. It's pretty well hidden. And there you go. It's gonna close right up for you. So, all right, so as we look at the back of the Hummer, as I mentioned, this thing has a functional big truck bed on it. So as we look, you can see there's kind of that traditional H that I was mentioning before. Lots of those. A couple of buttons right here. So we'll push the big one here, and that will release the tailgate for you. And then of course in there you've got a lot of room. This, like I said, it's a big functional truck bed. And there's an additional button which is located right down here. And if we click that, there you go. It drops down, and you actually have a functional step right here, which is pretty darn cool. So if you need a little help getting up in the tailgate, you have that. Also, there's this guy right here. Now you'd have to actually roll this thing back a little bit, but you can actually get this out there as well, just as something else to kind of help you up into the truck bed. But you can see a lot of room in the back of this Hummer, and that is a really nice feature. Now I actually want to show you the inside of this monster, and things get really, really interesting when you start to get to the interior of the brand new Hummer. So it does have a very industrial look, I will say that, and I do really like that. But you can see a lot of two-tones in this vehicle. You can see kind of more industrial handles with that traditional H, as I was mentioning before. But the great thing about this EV, it's a little bit unlike the Teslas in the fact that it has a lot of normal driving features, meaning the way you put it in gear, the turn signals, all that kind of stuff. They're like a normal car in this, which I actually really like. It takes less adjusting. But as you can see right here, there's no mistaking that this is an Edition 1. Like I said, beautiful kind of interior here, very truck feeling, which is the way that they wanted this to feel. This is a GMC after all. Basically, Hummer is still part of that group, but a really nice seat here to sit, two-tone once again. This is kind of more of that heavy-duty vinyl right up here, and then you do get some leather here in the center, which is kind of nice. More of that heavy-duty vinyl on the outside. You do get a big center console area here. Kind of neat to see this little pass-through here. And one of the really unique features of this particular Hummer is it's almost like space inspired. And what I mean by that is, even when you look at the speakers, believe it or not, this is actually kind of a map of the moon's surface. And they actually have this all over the vehicle. So the other speakers just like that. When you get in here, once again, that is more of like the moon's surface. Legitimately, they took maps of the moon and put them in this vehicle, which is darn cool. Now check out the central infotainment screen. I will show you a lot more on this later, but it looks very industrial, almost very manly, but very, very cool how they put this center instrumentation cluster together for us. And you've got a traditional gear shifter. Imagine that. And of course, your drive mode selector here as well. Now, as we go to the back, not a ton of bells and whistles. This seat actually will fold up, but you also get your dual climate controls back here. You do get a couple other nice features. Obviously, you get your USB, stuff like that, but really easy to use. And of course, you get your plug down here at the bottom as well. And these are very, very comfortable seats, and a lot of room back here as well. So now I'm actually inside the brand new Hummer EV, and I will fully admit, this thing just feels like an absolute beast. I mean, in my mind, and I've driven H1 Hummers before, and of course, those things are old school. It kind of has that almost like same kind of feel. It's just big, it's wide, it's menacing looking, but you have to take that and then add a whole bunch of civility and really cool features, and then you kind of get this. I mean, it's just crazy to think about how capable this vehicle is. And then all of the really neat different features, all the drive modes and all the different things that this will do, which I'm getting ready to show you. And I could literally do an entire video on all the different ways you can set this up. I won't do that, obviously, but I do want to show you some of the stuff this thing will do and still take it for a drive. So let me show you the driving position. So here is the driving position in the brand new Hummer EV, and it is a really nice place to sit. It does have kind of that industrial feel, as I mentioned before. You can see the signature H's even on the vents for this thing, and two-tone interior. You're going to see a lot of that kind of stuff. Once again, the little H's there, but really the doors, they're going to have your door controls really exactly where you would expect them to be. Same with your window controls. Now, you do a lot from the center console here. I will say that. Basically, you've got your climate controls that kind of go all the way along this bar and you've got toggle switches there. You can do a whole bunch with this center screen. And then of course, as you get down here, you've got some of your other driving components. You've got your heated steering wheel, which is always nice. Your locking diffs here. You've got your traction control, your parking sensors, things like that. But everything is really kind of nice and within reach. You do get vents here. You've got your traditional gear selector, which is great. Of course, your drive mode selector, which I will show you. Traditional cup holders. You do get a phone charger here, a wireless phone charger with some USBs, and a big central area for kind of storing things as well. So you can see really nice and deep there. But also, when you look at the back of this thing, your passenger is pretty far away from you. It may be hard to tell on the camera, but basically when we look back here, a really nice functional second row back here. You actually even get storage in the back of those seats, little cubbies and stuff like that. And of course, you get your functional truck bed. That window goes all the way down, which is pretty darn cool. As you would expect from GM, you do get this really nice kind of image there in your rear view. And I did mention this has cameras all over it. Let me show you. Now, another thing I really like about this Hummer is it has traditional push button start, just like you would in a normal vehicle. You put your foot on the brake, you push the power button, and then off you go. And as you look at kind of the gauge cluster here, it is a little bit more traditional in the sense. So you can see basically what you've got in terms of, it's almost like a fuel gauge, even though you know it works on electricity, but you can see just how much energy you have left in those batteries. And that is actually really a nice thing to see. And you'll also see, if you've got anything open, you can see the inner tailgate is open right now, which I will go ahead and fix, but you got a nice little compass there, and you can set this thing up in a whole bunch of different ways. But as you look over here at this screen, you can set up a lot of different things. Now, one of the first things I do want to mention, obviously Hummer, they're kind of known for being very capable off-road vehicles, and this one is absolutely no exception. So as we go into our screen here, there's a bunch of different options. I mentioned there's a lot of cameras. I want to show you that, but if we go into this one here, I mean, check out this thing. You've got your pitch and your roll, a lot of different things. It's actually keeping track of your tire positioning. Now, this thing will actually crab walk. That is one of the settings that this will have. So you've got it to where the back tires will turn in a different direction than the front tires. The back tires will go as much as 10 degrees, which is pretty darn cool. But you can see your drift angle, all sorts of different things this will keep track of. There are different ways to kind of set up this screen, which is pretty darn cool. And of course, as we go into our cameras, you won't believe how many cameras are on this vehicle. So we're looking behind us here. Of course, you've got an overhead look, and you can toggle back and forth. There's behind the vehicle. Same thing here. If we go into this one, that's giving you an overhead look of basically what's right in front of the vehicle. You can toggle back and forth. You can see what's on the side. There's a million cameras on this thing, guys. You can even look at your trailer hitch there, and you can even go over and you can look underneath the vehicle. I mean, which is, look at that. You're looking underneath the vehicle itself. It has some pretty cool features. You can actually wash this thing off. Check this out. If it's dirty and you're off-roading, you hit that, and it sprays it off for you. What? I mean, they have thought of everything when it comes to this new Hummer. Pretty darn cool. Now, when you take a closer look at your drive mode selector, this thing does some really cool stuff. For one, you can raise and lower your vehicle right here. You change your drive modes by turning this. This will actually put you in crab mode, which is pretty darn cool. So if you hold it, you'll see there's actually a crab that shows up right here on the dash. And check this out. Crab walk mode. So you do get some really neat things. And I tell you what, the people that actually filmed the Marvel movies actually did the graphics on this. How cool is that? Now, another really quirky thing about the new Hummer is that you don't get all of the vehicle's capability kind of right outside of the box all the time. Basically, you have to put this thing in what they call WTF mode. Imagine that, but it's not what you think. It's actually watts to freedom. I think there may be a play on words there, but if you put this thing in WTF mode, then you get full range of the power that this is capable of. 1,000 horsepower and 11,500 pound-feet of torque. Super, super impressive. So how do you put it in WTF mode? I'll show you. So to put this bad boy in WTF mode, you simply have to go to the traction control button and you just push the toggle down twice. My seat vibrates, and then you get this, which is pretty darn cool. I'll click the OK button there. It actually will lower the vehicle, but you can see now we are in WTF mode, and you can see basically this thing is 100% ready to go. So now I've got all the vehicle's power unlocked and ready to rock and roll, but there are a lot of other neat drive modes in this vehicle. So check this out. Here's our tow haul feature right there. And of course, as we jump over, we can also go to terrain. Then over here, you've got off-road, pretty darn cool. Then we jump over here to my mode. So that's actually very customizable there, which is cool. Then you've got normal mode. So a lot of different ways you can configure this thing. And they just, like I said, they thought of all sorts of neat things with this new Hummer. All right, so now I'm actually aboard the brand new Hummer EV, and gosh, it feels like a freaking tank when you're driving it. So I was told that this actually has, because of the crab walking ability that it has and the way that the wheels turn, it actually has the same turning radius as a Chevy Bolt, which is just insane because that is a really little car and this thing is a monster. So it just kind of shows how much thought GM put into this when they engineered it. So I kind of want to see just how it drives around town a little bit. I'm really curious to see if you're really losing anything by going to all electric, or it's even better. One thing that I do think is pretty cool, and I kind of glossed over this a little bit, is that it actually has LEDs in the steering wheel, just like on my Mustang, which is pretty neat. Like I said, there's a lot of little quirks to this vehicle. It will take a little bit of getting used to, but it's not quite so bad. Traditional turn signals here, like I mentioned, traditional gear selector, all that kind of stuff. It really does feel just like driving a normal car. And when you get on a little straightaway like this, I don't even have the full WTF mode engaged right now, but you got a nice little stretch. Sometimes you just want to see what the car's capable of. And wow, listen to this thing go. It just rolls. And that is almost going to slow it down. But this thing is actually deceivingly quick, because 9,000 pounds, guys, that is a lot of weight that is moving, but you don't feel it at all. And you get all that torque at basically no RPM. And so that's why when you talk about EVs, how fast they are, it's because of the way it makes the power. I talk about that all the time. So one of the really funny things is when you compare this to, say, something like a Tesla, say like the Model 3 Performance that I reviewed for you guys not too long ago, that Model 3 felt pretty darn fast, and you know, it's a little car. But this thing, this monster of a vehicle, I think is even faster than that Tesla Model 3 Performance. It's really impressive just how quick this thing is, and how readily it turns corners and stuff like that. It's really enjoyable to drive. Very, very comfortable this monster is. Now, as I mentioned before, you know, with EVs, they do take a lot of getting used to drive, but this literally doesn't feel any different than driving a normal car. It feels like just getting in it. Everything is right where you would expect it to be. Not a lot of crazy stuff. The central infotainment screen is really, really good, but it's very easy to use. So it's unlike a Tesla in that aspect, in the fact that it doesn't take a lot of adjustment to learn how to drive a car like this. It literally feels just get in it and go. If you're used to driving a Yukon or a Suburban or something, this wouldn't take hardly any adjusting at all. It makes almost no noise. Once again, it does make it just a little bit. You can hear a little bit of a hum, which from a Hummer you would expect, but I do really, really like the way that this thing handles. The suspension in this thing is fantastic. It's just absorbing bumps like crazy. And like when you come out of a corner, something like this, really nice and smooth. And then when you want to get on the power, it feels really good coming out of a turn. Gee, there is no excuse for something this big to be this capable. It's just ridiculous. Now, one other thing that I did notice about this is you wouldn't think a 9,000 pound vehicle would be nimble, but just look at how this thing turns in as I go in. I mean, it's actually pretty darn nimble. It feels like it on turn in, it feels very responsive, which it just seems counterintuitive to me when you think about something this big, this heavy. And they've just done a lot with the electric batteries, and the electric batteries sit very, very low down in this. And a lot of people, they say, oh, well, you know, what about the center of gravity and all that? They kept the batteries down very, very low to keep this thing very, very capable from an off-road perspective. But they did a lot to protect the batteries as well, because I know a lot of people are going to talk about that, is that are the batteries are they susceptible to being punctured by a rock, or are they susceptible to, you know, some sort of damage on the bottom? But if you look at Hummer's website, they will tell you they did a lot to protect those batteries down there while keeping that center of gravity very, very low, which is part of why this thing is still so capable. So another really cool feature of this, and I kind of glossed over this as well, is the fact that it does have regenerative braking. But you can actually, unlike a Plaid, you can turn the regenerative braking feature off in this vehicle, which I do kind of like that, because if you're used to kind of just letting off the gas pedal and all of a sudden the thing just brakes for you, it does feel a little bit weird and takes some getting used to, but you don't have to have that, which, you know what, I kind of like. So yeah, this thing is just a ton of fun. I really do like this. Like I said, I've never been a big EV guy, but I mean, you want to talk about a vehicle that really does a lot. Think about something. 0 to 60 on this beast is under 3 seconds when you have WTF mode activated. Under 3 seconds. I mean, when you see one of these on the road, you will see what I'm talking about and just how big it is. But very, very impressive what GM and the guys over at GMC have been able to do when they engineered this thing, because, I mean, they thought of all sorts of neat ways to make this vehicle what it is. So if you ever get a chance to go check one of these out, they're not making very many of this first run. So just kind of keep that in mind. They're going to be pretty darn hard to get for a while, but if you can get your hands on one, I think you'll see that it's a very, very capable vehicle, a lot of neat features, and very unique. And that about does it for my review on the brand new 2022 Hummer EV. What an absolute beast. I have to admit, I would absolutely rock one of these. I'm not a big proponent of EVs, as many of you guys know. It's just taken me some time to adjust. But that thing does just about everything. It is a monster of a vehicle, but very, very capable. Tons of ways to kind of set this thing up. And it is just showing how the EVs are really kind of progressing and what we have to look forward to here in the near future. Let me know what you think about the new Hummer EV in the comments down below. I'd love to hear about it, and I will catch you on the next one. So until then, RacerX.